Welcome, devoted planeswalkers, to another riveting episode of The Gathering Saltiest Cards, the series that delves into the dark and devious spells of Magic. Today, we unveil a card that's infamous for leaving opponents in ruins, Armageddon. Armageddon is a white sorcery that, when cast, descends like a cataclysm upon the battlefield. It does the unthinkable. It destroys all lands, all of them. Why is Armageddon so salty, you may wonder? Picture the despair on your opponent's face as their precious lands, the lifeblood of their strategy, crumble into dust. It's like witnessing the apocalypse of their game plan. As for the salt factor, this card earns a jaw-dropping 5 salt shakers. It's not just unpleasant, it's downright apocalyptic. Armageddon has ignited countless arguments, turned friends into foes, and left tables in disarray. Playing Armageddon is like casting a shadow of doom over your opponent's dreams of victory, leaving them with nothing but a barren battlefield and a salty taste in their mouths. Thanks for joining us on The Gathering's Saltiest Cards. Stay tuned for more cards that'll have your opponents questioning the very essence of their existence. Let me know in the comments whether you'd play this card or not. Welcome, fellow planeswalkers, to The Gathering's Saltiest Cards, where we unveil the most cunning, controversial, and downright infuriating cards in Magic. Today, we've unearthed a spell that's infamous for causing tidal waves of salt: Expropriate. Expropriate is a blue sorcery that lets you do something that'll make your opponents shake their fists in frustration. You get to take an extra turn, and not just that, you also get to choose an opponent to take an extra turn after you. But wait, there's more. You also get to decide whether you want to steal their non-land permanents, or get a ridiculous amount of time counters on Expropriate to potentially cast it again and again. Why is Expropriate so salty, you ask? Imagine the look on your opponent's face as you snatch their precious turns away, leaving them to stew in frustration. It's like watching their hopes and plans crumble. Playing Expropriate is like claiming the moral high ground, and then some. It's a card that can turn friends into foes faster than you can say extra turn. Thanks for joining us on The Gathering's Saltiest Cards. Stay tuned for more cards that'll leave your opponents drowning in a sea of salt. Until next time, keep those salt shakers handy, planeswalkers. Welcome, fellow planeswalkers, to another episode of The Gathering's Saltiest Cards, where we dive into the devious and delightfully infuriating cards of Magic. Today, prepare yourselves, because we're about to unveil a card that's the embodiment of saltiness. Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger. Vorinclex is a green praetor with an appetite for destruction. When this colossal creature hits the battlefield, it says, "Hey, you like having mana? Well, you're about to have a lot less of it." That's right. It doubles the number of 1/1 counters on your opponent's lands while preventing them from untapping during their untap step. But why is Vorinclex so salty? Picture the dismay on your opponent's face as their once bountiful lands wither away, leaving them struggling for resources. It's like watching their dreams crumble into barren wastelands. As for the salt factor, this card earns a mighty 5 salt shakers. It's not just unpleasant, it's outrageously salty. Vorinclex has been the catalyst for countless moments of table-flipping, eye-rolling despair and exasperated sighs. Playing Vorinclex is like turning your opponent's mana-rich paradise into a desolate, barren battlefield. It's a card that can make even the most composed players lose their cool. Thanks for joining us on The Gathering's Saltiest Cards. Stay tuned for more cards that'll leave your opponents drenched in the salty tears of defeat. Until next time, keep those salt shakers handy, planeswalkers. Welcome back to The Gathering's Saltiest Cards, where we dive into the world of Magic, The Gathering's most notorious game changers. Today, brace yourselves, because we're unearthing a card that's infamous for causing salt levels to skyrocket: Winter Orb. Winter Orb is a colorless artifact that has the power to turn your opponent's world upside down. When it hits the battlefield, it says, "Hey, You like tapping lands? Well, now you can only tap one per turn. That's right, it's the icy grip of resource denial. Why is Winter Orb so salty? Imagine the frustration on your opponent's face as their plans crumble, their tempo stalls, and their options dwindle to a crawl. It's like trying to move through a winter storm. As for the salt factor, this card earns an impressive 4 salt shakers. It's not just unpleasant, it's incredibly salty. Winter Orb has been the source of many a heated argument and bitter defeat. Playing Winter Orb is like turning your opponent's dreams into a snowstorm of despair. It's not for the faint of heart, but if you enjoy watching your opponent squirm, this card is pure satisfaction. Thanks for joining us on The Gathering's Saltiest Cards. Stay tuned for more cards that'll leave your opponents in a blizzard of salt. Until next time, keep those salt shakers handy, Planeswalkers. Welcome to The Gathering's Saltiest Cards, where we dive deep into the realm of Magic, most notorious game changers. Today, we're taking a look at a card that's notorious for causing frustration and irritation among players: Stasis. Stasis is a blue enchantment that brings your opponent's gameplay to a screeching halt. When it hits the battlefield, it says, "Hey, nobody's untapping anything anymore." Yeah, that's right. No untapping lands, no creatures, nothing. Now, why is Stasis so salty? Well, imagine the look on your opponent's face as they desperately try to find a way out of this unending freeze. It's like watching them wrestle with the tides of despair. As for the salt factor, this card earns a solid 5 salt shakers. It's not just unpleasant, it's downright infuriating. Your opponents will be reaching for the salt shaker themselves as they try to cope with the endless lockdown. Stasis has been the source of countless grudges, heated arguments, and epic tales of salty comebacks. It's a card that makes the salt flow like a river. So, if you're ever in the mood to turn your opponent's smile into a frown, Stasis might just be the card for you. But beware, it's not for the faint of heart. Thanks for joining us on The Gathering's Saltiest Cards. Stay tuned for more cards that'll leave your opponents in a sea of salt. Until next time, keep those salt shakers handy, Planeswalkers.